So there's some news that came out about Elon Musk shutting down USAID, and that is the international development arm of the US government. So I started thinking about this because I didn't want to just rush in with rash decisions and comments, but then I heard Marco Rubio say this. I'm going to play the clip.
So it's not normal for the world to simply have a unipolar power. That was an anomaly. It was the product of the end of the Cold War. But eventually you were going to reach back to a point where you had a multipolar world, great powers in different parts of the planet. We face that now with China, and to some extent, Russia.
In this clip, he's talking about how the U.S. is no longer an independent controller of the international stage. The U.S. has to get used to the fact that it's going to be the U.S., China, and Russia. And this is him basically waving the white flag and saying that the U.S. is no longer as powerful as it used to be, and it's not going to be any more powerful anymore. So in the future, it's going to be 3 powers, not just one. And I thought, well, let's take a look at why he would say that. So I went and I looked, and we're going to start with Latin America. China making huge inroads in the last 2-3 months in Latin America. They've been making them for a long time, but the U.S. has been able to hold their influence there. Then we moved over to Japan. Japan is now finally starting to talk with China on friendlier terms than they ever used to in the last 3 or 4 months. So, once again, we're losing influence in Latin America, Japan, but not only that, EU, same thing, losing influence there. So, what about Africa? Well, Africa, we've already lost most of our influence there, which is really concerning because Africa is one of the fastest developing continents in the world, with one of the fastest growing populations in the world. I want to show a map here. This is Chinese funded projects across the world. And then here we have a map of the fastest growing economies in the world. Notice something? China is developing many of these economies and putting tons of money into developing these economies. So this is going to wane U.S. influence for the next 20-30 years. This is Marco Rubio basically saying we're going to wave the white flag on the U.S. being a superpower.